The snow had just started to fall when my phone buzzed, one sharp vibration that sliced through the quiet of the clinic parking lot. I was still in my scrubs, the same pair I'd worn through a 12-hour shift that blurred together in exhaustion and fluorescent light. My reflection in the rearview mirror looked like someone else entirely. Pale skin, tired eyes, and hair pulled into a ponytail that had given up hours ago. Outside, the world looked peaceful. Inside, my world was about to cave in with one message. Subject: Thanksgiving plans. Quick update. It came from my mother. 5 harmless words in the subject line, but I already knew nothing from her was ever harmless. I clicked it open and read the first line. This year, we're hosting at Claire and Mark's new house. With all the guests, there won't be enough space for you and Noah at the main table, but you can still make your sweet potato casserole. For a moment, my brain refused to process the words. It was like being punched softly. No sound, just the ache. They weren't just uninviting me. They were uninviting my son. The same boy who had spent the entire week drawing turkeys for Grandma's fridge. The same boy who'd said, "This year, I'll sit at the big table, right, Mom?" Before I could even react, another message appeared. My sister Claire. Of course. "Hey, Lily, Mom said you got her email. You'll still bring the pies, right? Everyone loves your crust." Everyone. The words sat on my tongue like poison. Then Dad, always the diplomat of denial. "Let's not make this dramatic, Lily. Just help out in the kitchen like usual. You're good at that." Good at that? Good at smiling while being invisible. Good at cooking meals for people who never said thank you. Good at pretending I didn't notice when my son was excluded from every family photo. The phone slipped from my hand and landed in the passenger seat with a dull thud. For a few seconds, I just stared out through the foggy windshield at families walking past, bundled up in scarves and laughter. A father lifted his daughter onto his shoulders to see the Christmas lights. A mother held her son's mittened hand. It should have been a sweet scene. Instead, it felt like a mirror of everything I'd lost without realizing it. Then, in the reflection of the glass, I saw Noah's booster seat in the back. His dinosaur stickers, his tiny gloves, his whole little world depending on me. I imagined the way his face would light up when I told him we were going to Grandma's, how that same face would fall when I said we weren't invited. How could I tell him that? How could I make a 9-year-old understand rejection that cruelly dressed itself as limited seating? The phone buzzed again. Another ping from Claire. "Oh, and don't forget napkins. We're out." A laugh escaped my throat. Not the amused kind, the hollow, dangerous kind that only shows up when anger and heartbreak collide. I rolled the window down an inch, letting the icy air sting my face just to feel something real again. Images started flashing through my mind. Birthdays I organized, dinners I hosted, hospital rides I gave, every favor, every sacrifice. When Claire had her engagement party and the caterer quit last minute, I cooked for 70 people. When Dad had surgery, I took a week off work to care for him. When Mom wanted a Christmas brunch, worthy of Instagram, who decorated the entire house? Me? Always me. And yet somehow I never had a seat. Not a literal one, not a metaphorical one. Just the leftovers of everyone else's gratitude. Something inside me went very still. I picked up my phone, looked at the family group chat full of emojis and entitlement, and pressed the button I'd never dared to press before. Power off. The screen went dark. For the first time in years, so did the noise. In that quiet, something strange happened. I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. The snow outside thickened, each flake catching the light from a distant street lamp. I leaned back in my seat and whispered it out loud just to hear how it sounded. I'm done. Done being their reliable background character. Done carrying a family that never once carried me. Done pretending that crumbs counted as love. And somewhere deep inside, under the exhaustion, the ache, the disappointment, a spark flickered to life. Small, defiant, hopeful. Maybe I didn't need their table. Maybe it was time to build my own. I turned the key in the ignition, watching the headlights carve through the falling snow. For the first time, I wasn't driving toward them. I was driving away, towards something new, something mine. And though I didn't know it yet, that simple act of leaving would become the first real Thanksgiving of my life. Morning crept in through the frosted window, pale and heavy, the kind of winter light that makes everything feel both quiet and uncertain. Lily sat at her small kitchen table, hands wrapped around a chipped mug of coffee, staring at her dark phone lying face down beside it. The silence felt strange, clean, almost holy. For the first time in years, no one was asking her for anything. No one was guilt-tripping her into doing more. Steam fogged the window, blurring the outline of the frozen lake outside. She could still hear the echo of her mother's message from the night before, the one that had finally broken something in her. For years, she'd told herself that family love was unconditional, that if she gave enough, served enough, stayed quiet enough, they would eventually see her worth. But now she understood the cruel truth. You can't earn love by disappearing. The bedroom door creaked open behind her. "Mama!" Noah's small voice was thick with sleep. His hair stuck up in every direction. "Aren't we going to the store today? For Thanksgiving stuff?" Lily froze for a second. The lie formed automatically on her tongue, but never made it out. She couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't dress up rejection as misunderstanding. She reached out and pulled him close, breathing in the warmth of his flannel pajamas. "Not this year, sweetheart," she whispered. "We're going to do Thanksgiving differently." "Differently how?" Lily smiled, though her heart ached. "Let's just say we're going on a little secret mission, you and me." Noah's face lit up instantly. "Like spies?" "Exactly like spies." When he turned toward the TV, humming to himself, Lily opened her laptop. The glow of the screen felt like a portal to another world. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard before she typed the words that would change everything. Thanksgiving getaways for single moms. Hundreds of links filled the screen. Cabins in Vermont, coastal inns in Maine, mountain lodges in Colorado. But one picture made her stop. The Timberline Lodge, Oregon. A rustic mountain hotel blanketed in snow, its windows glowing golden under strings of fairy lights. There was a family holiday escape package, complete with a Thanksgiving buffet, sleigh rides, and a children's baking class. The price tag matched exactly what she had budgeted for Christmas gifts and groceries for her parents and sister. Lily stared at the number for a long time. Then she looked at the photo of Noah on her phone, his goofy grin framed by a halo of sunlight. The realization hit her like a spark catching flame. Why spend my hard-earned money buying gifts for people who treat us like obligations, when I could buy joy for us instead? Her heart pounded. She hesitated only for a moment before clicking, "Book now." Immediately, her phone began to ring. "Mom!" "Of course." "Lily, finally, I've been calling all morning." Her mother's voice exploded through the speaker. "Why haven't you answered? Claire said you're being difficult again." "I'm not being difficult, Mom," Lily said evenly. "I just needed space to think." "Think about what?" "There's nothing to think about. Claire's house isn't that big, and we can't crowd the guests. You know how important this dinner is for her husband's business connections. So Noah and I just don't count as guests?" "Don't twist my words. You're overreacting. We love you both, but you need to understand the situation." "The situation," Lily repeated slowly, "is that my son and I aren't welcome. You're embarrassed by us. By him." Her mother's tone hardened. "That's ridiculous. You always turn everything into drama. We're doing our best." Lily felt her pulse steady. "And I've been doing my best for years. But my best doesn't mean being invisible anymore." Before her mother could reply, she hung up. The click was final, quiet, sharp, liberating. The weight of years of obligation lifted just enough for her to breathe again. Across the room, Noah was arranging his Legos into neat rows. "Mama," he asked without looking up, "should we pack for our mission?" Lily smiled for real this time. "Yes, Agent, pack your warmest socks. We're going somewhere with snow." "Wah!" He whooped and ran to his room, rummaging through drawers for his favorite mittens. His laughter filled the tiny apartment like sunlight after a storm. That evening, Lily began packing. Sweaters, gloves, Noah's blanket, a few snacks for the train. Each folded shirt felt like a promise. To herself, to him, a promise that this time, love would look different. When her phone rang again, she hesitated before answering. Claire. Lily, what's going on? Mom says you're being childish. I'm not coming to Thanksgiving this year, Lily said quietly. There was a pause, then a disbelieving laugh. Not coming? What are you talking about? Who's going to cook? You'll figure it out. Don't be ridiculous. You can't just walk out on the family like that. Claire, I've been carrying this family for years. Maybe it's time you tried. Her sister's voice rose. You're being selfish. Dad's expecting his usual dinner. You can't let him down. Lily almost pitied her. Selfish? Because I want to eat at a table where my son is allowed to sit? God, you always make yourself the victim, Claire snapped. Maybe, Lily said softly, because that's the only role you ever gave me. She ended the call. For a long while, she just sat there, staring at the black screen of her phone. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear. It was adrenaline, release, freedom. Later that night, snow fell thick outside her window, covering the city in silence. Lily stood watching it, 1,000 memories flickering through her mind. Every favor, every apology, every time she'd swallowed her hurt to keep the peace. She realized she didn't have to keep proving her worth to people who refused to see it. By morning, her decision had solidified into something unbreakable. When she dropped Noah off at school, the radio played a song she hadn't heard in years, Home by Philip Phillips. Just know you're not alone, 'cause I'm going to make this place your home. She sang along under her breath, smiling for the first time in days. The calls came nonstop that afternoon. Mom, Dad, Claire. Each voicemail grew more desperate, the tone shifting from annoyance to panic. Lily let them pile up. She didn't owe explanations anymore. That evening, she opened her email and saw the confirmation from Timberline Lodge. Reservation confirmed, November 23rd, 27. Her pulse steadied. Her lips curved into a slow smile. She forwarded her vacation request to her supervisor at the hospital. Within minutes, her coworker Sarah replied, "Good for you. It's about time you did something for yourself." As night fell, Lily and Noah baked cookies together in the warm glow of the oven light. He hummed Christmas songs off-key, his cheeks dusted with flour. "Mom," he asked suddenly, "if Grandma calls again, will you answer?" Lily shook her head gently. "Not tonight. She'll be mad," he said matter-of-factly. "Probably," Lily replied, "but sometimes people need to be mad before they can understand." He considered that for a moment, then smiled. "I like happy better than mad." Her heart clenched. Out of the mouth of a child, the truth always sounded so simple. When Noah finally went to bed, Lily stayed up packing the last of their things. On a scrap of paper, she scribbled Operation Freedom and taped it to their suitcase. Half joke, half manifesto. At midnight, she stood by the window again, watching the snow drift through the yellow glow of the streetlights. The city was silent, asleep, unaware that somewhere in a small apartment, a woman was quietly reclaiming her life. Tomorrow, she and her son would board a train bound west toward mountains and pine trees and peace. But tonight, Lily allowed herself a single shaky breath of triumph, because walking away wasn't weakness. It was courage disguised as calm. And though she didn't know it yet, that small act of rebellion, that decision to choose herself, would set off a chain of events that would make everyone, even her family, question what love really means. When a woman finally decides she's had enough, the world around her starts to shift. And for the first time in her life, Lily Porter was ready to let it. The morning they left, the city was still half asleep under a thin veil of snow. Streetlights blinked amber in the early dawn, and breath came out in soft clouds as Lily and Noah rolled their suitcases through the quiet parking lot toward her old Subaru. The air was sharp with cold, the kind that nips at your fingers and clears your head at the same time. "Ready, partner?" Lily asked. Noah nodded, his knitted hat slightly crooked, his small hands gripping a thermos of hot cocoa like it was a treasure map. "Ready for Operation Freedom," he declared solemnly. Lily laughed, ruffling his hair. "Then let's begin the mission." The drive to the train station was quiet, but not the heavy kind of quiet that used to haunt her mornings. It was peaceful, alive with possibility. The roads shimmered under the dim light, snow dusting the windshield as the radio hummed a soft Christmas tune. Every mile felt like distance between her and a life she no longer owed to anyone. At the station, the world was a blur of movement. Families in puffy coats, luggage wheels squeaking on the icy platform, the low rumble of the Amtrak engine warming up. Noah pressed his face against the glass, eyes wide. "It's so big," he whispered, as though the train itself were a living creature. "It'll take us through mountains," Lily said, smiling. "You'll see snow on pine trees, rivers that look like silver ribbons." "And maybe reindeer?" he asked hopefully. "Maybe," she said, leaning close, "if we're lucky." When the whistle blew, they found their seats by the window. As the train began to glide forward, the city slipped away, gray buildings giving way to open fields blanketed in white. Lily exhaled, finally letting her body relax against the seat. She glanced down at her phone, where a dozen missed calls blinked like little red warnings. She turned it off again. Not today, not now. Noah was sketching in his travel notebook, tiny doodles of mountains, snowflakes, and what looked like a turkey in a top hat. Every few minutes, he'd hold up his drawings proudly, and Lily would nod as if each one were a masterpiece. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she could breathe. Hours passed like dream sequences, the gentle sway of the train, the rhythmic clatter of wheels against the track, the warmth of cocoa and cinnamon cookies shared between them. Outside, the sun began to rise over the hills, washing everything in pale gold. Lily caught their reflection in the window, a woman and her son, traveling not just to a new place, but toward a new version of themselves. When they arrived in Oregon that evening, the air was colder, sharper, alive with the scent of pine. The Timberline Lodge stood like a castle of light at the base of the mountain, windows glowing against the snow. Lily's breath caught. It was even more beautiful than the photos. Stone walls, wood beams, icicles hanging like crystal chandeliers from the eaves. Noah gasped beside her. "It looks like a storybook." Inside, the lobby radiated warmth. A roaring fire cracked in a massive stone fireplace. The scent of cinnamon and pine filled the air. A towering Christmas tree stretched toward the rafters, its ornaments catching the light like tiny stars. A cheerful concierge smiled as they approached. "Welcome to Timberline Lodge, Mrs. Porter. We've been expecting you. And who is this fine young man?" "I'm Agent Noah," the boy said proudly. "We're on a secret mission." The man chuckled. "Well, Agent Noah, your mission starts with hot cocoa and marshmallows in the lounge." Noah's face lit up. Lily felt a lump form in her throat. This was how her son deserved to be treated. Not as an inconvenience, not as a child to manage, but as a person worth delighting in. Their suite overlooked the snowy slopes, with a view that made Lily's chest tighten. A fireplace flickered in the corner, and a small welcome basket sat on the table. Cookies, cocoa packets, and a handwritten note. "Happy holidays from the Timberline family." Noah ran from room to room, exploring every corner, testing the bounce of the bed, opening every drawer like he was on a treasure hunt. "Mama, look, they even have bubble bath." She laughed. "Looks like we'll have to test it later." That night, after unpacking, they curled up by the window with mugs of cocoa. Outside, snow drifted past the glass in slow motion, the world silent except for the faint sound of laughter from the lobby below. For the first time in years, Lily didn't feel like she was missing out on something. She wasn't outside looking in anymore. She was exactly where she belonged. Back home in Wisconsin, the Parker family group chat had become a digital battlefield. "Mom, where is Lily?" Claire, she's not answering any of us. She's being impossible. Dad, dinner's tomorrow. Who's cooking the turkey? Mom, she's the only one who knows the recipe. Claire, I'll figure it out. How hard can it be? Lily's silence had begun to echo louder than any words she'd ever spoken. Thanksgiving morning arrived crisp and bright. The mountain sparkled under a blanket of snow. Lily woke to the smell of cinnamon rolls drifting through the hallways. Noah was already dressed, his scarf crooked, and his excitement uncontainable. Can we go outside? Please, Mom. They stepped into the cold air, snow crunching beneath their boots. Families filled the open square, children building snowmen, couples ice skating, the sound of sleigh bells ringing from somewhere in the distance. Look! Noah pointed at a small wooden sign, cookie decorating 10 a.m. They joined a group of kids at a long table filled with frosting, sprinkles, and laughter. Noah dove in head first, smearing frosting on cookies and accidentally on his own nose. Lily couldn't stop smiling. Every sound of his laughter melted something frozen inside her. Later, they walked along the trails behind the lodge, watching sunlight glint off the snow-covered pines. Noah looked up suddenly and said, "This is the best Thanksgiving ever." She squeezed his hand. "Yeah, baby, it really is." That evening, the buffet hall glowed like a dream. Families gathered around tables overflowing with food, roasted turkey, cranberry sauce, pumpkin pie. The air was filled with warmth and laughter. Lily and Noah sat near the window, overlooking the slopes where tiny lights shimmered in the darkness. Halfway through dinner, Lily turned her phone back on for the first time in 2 days. Instantly, notifications exploded. Missed calls, voicemails, dozens of texts. From Mom. "Where are you?" From Dad. "This isn't funny, Lily. The turkey's raw." From Claire. "I can't believe you do this to us. You ruined everything." She scrolled further, finding a message from her cousin, sent that morning. "Good for you, Lily. They needed this wake-up call. Proud of you." She couldn't help but laugh quietly. The universe, it seemed, had exquisite timing. Noah noticed. "Are they mad at us?" "They're surprised," Lily said carefully. "They're not used to me saying no. Will they be okay?" "Oh, they'll survive," she said, smiling. "Maybe they'll even learn how to make gravy next year." He giggled, and they clinked their cocoa mugs together in a mock toast. Outside the window, snow fell heavier, blanketing everything in white silence. Inside, the fire crackled, and Lily felt something she hadn't felt in years: peace. She looked at her son, face glowing with happiness, and thought, this is what family is supposed to feel like. Meanwhile, across the country, chaos had reached a crescendo. Claire's kitchen was a disaster, smoke curling from the oven, Dad yelling that the turkey looked half alive, Mom crying over burned pies, and the guests shifting awkwardly in the living room. "Why didn't you just call her?" Dad snapped. "I did," Claire hissed. "She's ignoring us." "Well, now we're stuck with cold mashed potatoes and pizza." Mom wiped her eyes, voice trembling. "Maybe we should have treated her better." But it was too late for that realization to change the night. Back at Timberline, Lily and Noah stood on the outdoor balcony after dinner, wrapped in blankets, watching the lights of snowmobiles zigzag through the dark hills. Noah's head rested on her shoulder, his breath visible in the cold. "Mom?" he murmured. "Do you think they miss us?" Lily smiled faintly. "I think they're starting to." She looked up at the sky where snowflakes drifted softly down like forgiveness. For the first time, she wasn't angry anymore, just free. That night when she tucked Noah into bed, he whispered, half asleep, "Mom, I like this mission." She brushed a hand through his hair. "Me too, sweetheart." The fire flickered low, casting golden light across the room. Lily sat by the window, watching the snow fall endlessly outside. She realized that leaving hadn't just been about walking away from her family. It had been about walking back toward herself. And somewhere deep inside, she knew. The next time her family tried to pull her back into that old version of her, the one who cooked and served and never spoke up, she'd smile and say no without apology, Because once you taste freedom, you can't pretend crumbs are enough. The morning after Thanksgiving, sunlight spilled through the wide windows of the Timberline Lodge, turning the snow outside into sheets of glittering glass. Lily woke to the sound of Noah humming softly beside the window, his little fingers tracing patterns of snowflakes that melted against the glass. "Morning, Mama," he whispered without turning around. "The mountains look like marshmallows." Lily smiled, sitting up, the blanket pooling around her shoulders. "That's because the snow fell all night. Want to go see them up close after breakfast?" He nodded eagerly, his breath fogging the window. "Yes, can we make a snow angel army this time?" "An army?" she teased. "How many soldiers are we talking about?" He thought seriously for a moment. Maybe 20, but nice soldiers, the kind that protect moms. Lily froze, her chest tightening. It was such an innocent line, simple, funny, unfiltered, but it hit her like a prayer she hadn't known she needed. She reached over, pulled him into a hug, and whispered into his hair, "You already do, sweetheart." They spent the morning outside, laughter echoing against the pine-covered slopes. The air was crisp and sharp, but every sound felt like music. The crunch of snow, the whoosh of sleds, Noah's endless chatter. For once, the world didn't feel like a place she had to survive. It felt like somewhere she belonged. When they returned to their room, cheeks flushed and boots dripping, Lily noticed her phone flashing again. This time not with panic, but with something different. Dozens of messages had piled up overnight, but one stood out. It was from her sister, Claire. "Claire. Lily, please call me. I owe you an apology." Lily hesitated. Her thumb hovered over the screen. For a long moment, she simply stared at it, unsure if she wanted to open the door that silence had finally closed. But something inside her, the same quiet strength that had pushed her to leave, whispered, "You can listen without surrendering." She stepped out onto the balcony, snowflakes catching in her hair as she pressed call. "Lily?" Claire's voice was small, stripped of its usual sharpness. "I didn't think you'd answer." "I almost didn't," Lily said softly. "I deserve that." A long exhale came through the line. "We messed up, all of us. The dinner was a disaster. Mom was crying, Dad burned the turkey, and I realized," her voice cracked, "I realized how much we took you for granted. You've been holding this family together for years, and we didn't even see it." Lily leaned against the railing, looking out over the endless snow. "You didn't want to see it, Claire. It was easier to treat me like the helper than the equal." "I know," Claire whispered, "and I'm sorry." Mom's been beside herself since last night. She finally admitted she shouldn't have said what she did. She misses Noah, too. We all do. Lily didn't answer right away. The wind carried the faint sound of church bells from the village below. Gentle, steady, forgiving. "Claire," she said finally, "I appreciate you saying that. But it can't go back to how it was. I won't go back to being the one who serves while everyone else sits." "I don't want that either," Claire replied quickly. I want to start over. Maybe we can come visit you and Noah next week. No expectations, just family." Lily smiled faintly. "We'll see." They hung up quietly. No anger, no tears, just a peace that came from truth finally spoken. That afternoon, Lily and Noah took the lodge's scenic train through the forest. Snow-covered branches arched overhead, forming a white tunnel that shimmered with reflected sunlight. Noah pressed his face against the glass, leaving little fog prints. "Mama," he said, "do you think Grandma and Aunt Claire are sad?" "Maybe a little," Lily said honestly. "Sometimes people need to feel sad before they can start to change." "Will we see them again?" "Probably. But when we do, it'll be different. We'll go because we want to, not because we're expected to." Noah nodded, satisfied with the answer. Then he looked up, smiling. "You're really brave, Mama." Lily laughed softly. "Brave? Me? Yeah, you didn't yell or cry or hide. You just walked away. That's superhero stuff." Her eyes stung. "Thank you, baby. But you know, it's not about being brave. It's about knowing what you deserve and what you don't. Noah nodded, serious now. Then I think we both deserve pie later. She grinned. That's the best idea you've ever had. That evening, as the sky faded into lavender, Lily sat by the lobby fireplace, notebook open in her lap. She began writing, not texts, not reports, but a letter, not to her family, but to herself. Dear Lily, you've spent years trying to earn love from people who only knew how to take it. You bent until you nearly broke, thinking that peace meant keeping quiet. But peace isn't silence. It's truth without fear. You taught your son that love doesn't come from permission. It grows where it's safe to be exactly who you are. Keep building that space. Keep choosing that kind of love. She signed it simply, with grace, Lily. When she looked up, the firelight danced across the polished stone, and a realization washed over her. She didn't hate her family. Not really. She pitied them. Their blindness, their fear of imperfection, their obsession with appearances. But pity had no power over her anymore. Forgiveness wasn't for them. It was for her own freedom. She whispered quietly, I forgive you. I forgive all of you. And just like that, the heaviness she'd carried for years seemed to lift. Weeks later, Christmas came. Snow fell thick in Wisconsin again, and this time, Lily didn't dread it. She and Noah decorated their own small tree in their apartment, its mismatched ornaments shining proudly. As they hung the final ornament, a tiny glass angel Noah had picked from the lodge gift shop, the doorbell rang. When she opened it, there stood a package on the doorstep. No name, no return address. Inside, she found a note written in her mother's handwriting. Lily, we've been thinking a lot about what you said, about what we've done. The house felt empty without you this year. Your father's been reading about ADHD. He wants to understand Noah better. Claire's been cooking. The turkey was edible this time. We're trying. Next year, there will always be room for you. Always. Love, Mom. Tears blurred the ink as Lily folded the note. She didn't know what next year would look like, whether she'd go back or whether she'd invite them into her world instead. But that didn't matter. The point wasn't the table. It was knowing that she no longer had to beg for a seat at it. Noah tugged at her sleeve. What's wrong, Mama? Nothing's wrong, she said, pulling him close. Everything's finally right. That night, she tucked him into bed and stood for a while watching the snow fall outside, soft, relentless, forgiving. Somewhere deep down, she understood the truth that had taken her 34 years to find. Love doesn't have to hurt to be real. Family doesn't have to be perfect to be worth keeping. But peace is a choice. One you make every day when you decide who gets to sit at your table and who doesn't. She turned off the lamp, kissed her son's forehead, and whispered, Happy holidays, Agent Noah. He stirred in his sleep and murmured, Mission accomplished. Lily smiled in the dark. Yes, mission accomplished. Because sometimes the most powerful thing a woman can do isn't shouting or fighting. It's walking away, standing tall, and building a new life that whispers louder than any apology ever could.